You know, you mentioned the word joy, but there was another word here that's really struck me. We keep hearing, and it's pretty ironic. They keep talking about freedom and this rebranding of freedom. Have a little listen to Tim Walz here.
We also protected reproductive freedom because in Minnesota, we respect our neighbors and the personal choices they make. And even if we wouldn't make those same choices for ourselves, we've got a golden rule. Mind your own damn business.
I mean, Joe, the idea of the Democrats saying mind your own business, this is the party of meddling in your life. It's like they're like, you know, oh, love who you want to love, but don't cook that person a meal on a gas stove or pick them up for a date in a V8 car. This rebranding of freedom, it seems very sinister to me.
Oh, my goodness. I just threw up my mouth a little bit. I got to admit, because Coach Walz, right, and I played football, the other football here in the United States, as far as, you know, Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce kind of football. He talks about mind your own damn business. In Minnesota, literally, this governor, when COVID hit, created a snitch hotline where if you saw somebody wearing a mask or not wearing a mask where they should, then you call the hotline, report on your neighbor, and tell on them. This is the same guy who drove 96 miles an hour, drunk driving, and got his coaching license revoked here in the U.S. and had to volunteer coach instead as an assistant coach, and then rode those coattails to a state championship, apparently. And now he's Coach Walz. He's a man of the people. I cannot get over the gaslighting that's going on here. And Democrats are smart in this sense. They know they can get away with it because our stupid, corrupt, utterly hopeless media here in the U.S. allows them to get away with it, where the fact checkers apparently have been on spring break for the last 3.5 years, so they could say all these things and not worry about any consequences because, well, the media is going to be like, yeah, yay, Tim Walz, yay, Kamala
Yay.
Harris. It's all a big joke.
Well, it is, man, you know, but let's talk a little bit more about Tim Walz for a moment, because he makes also, you know, you said about being a coach, but he also makes this huge deal about having been a teacher, right? But then he said this. I thought this was really curious during his speech.
I had 24 kids in my high school class, and none of them went to Yale.
Now, look, I mean, you know, I thought if you were a teacher, you'd be proud if your kids went to Yale. I know he wants to slam JD Vance, but this seems, to use another word they like to use, weird. And when you take it in the context, Joe, of a whole convention where people like Michelle Obama, who owns 4 mansions, criticizes other people getting rich,
right?
It seems like the Democrat elite, the theme here is everybody else stay in your place, and hey, that's freedom. Your thoughts on this?
I'll make this personal, okay? My dad, who I just spoke to a couple of minutes ago, actually, 81 years old, right? This guy grew up poor, all right? His dad died at a relatively young age. My grandmother, my Nana Concha, actually went to go work at a hospital where she wasn't a nurse, she wasn't a doctor, she dropped out of school basically in 4th grade because she had to support her family. She worked there in a kind of a grunt kind of job, serving people and just making sure that they were feeling and doing okay. Never got a driver's license, by the way. Literally, like, walked up, took the bus, and went to Hackensack Hospital here in New Jersey. When I hear this sort of thing from Tim Walz, talking about how JD Vance is a bad guy because he grew up poor and got himself out of poverty, out of a bad home where his mother obviously was abused, all these things. And then he was able to pull himself up, and then he joins the Marines after high school. He graduates Ohio State University in 2 years. Here in the U.S., it takes 4, or in my case, 4.5. Trust me. And then he gets to Yale Law School. It's a true story. Yale Law School, and is on the Yale Review and accomplishes all these things, becomes a senator eventually. Every American, every Englishman, every Australian, I don't care who you are, should celebrate that and say, that's great. You worked through all this adversity and you eventually got to a place where now you could be the next vice president or even president of the United States. Instead, Tim Walz, a teacher, of all people, should be commending that. Like, wow, that's great. You did exactly what I tried to teach you to do. And he's criticizing him over it. It's so phony. It's so fake. This guy, Kamala Harris, the whole party, quite frankly, I think this has a boomerang effect, quite frankly, where this convention usually should result in a poll bounce. I think not the reverse, but I don't think they get anything out of this because it's so fake and so inauthentic. I'm sorry.
No, look, I think you're right. And, I think with Kamala Harris, kind of what you see is what you get. I think Tim Walz is the more sinister one because I think that's the guy who's really trying to be something he's not. Joe Concha, thank you so much for your time here on the U.S. Report.